Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new video where of course we are talking about The Haunting of Villa Diodati. So yes, I've just watched the episode, it finished 10-15 minutes ago. I think it's fair to say you probably could have named this episode The Lone Cyberman if you wanted to spoil what happened in this episode. But yeah, I have lots of thoughts and feelings and I thought it was a really, really good episode, first and foremost, like quite possibly the best of the series, certainly one of the best of the series. But yeah, let's get cracking. So yes, of course, this episode took us back to 1816 to Villa Diodati, which is where essentially the story of Frankenstein was conceived by Mary Shelley and Lord Byron and Dr. Polidori even in this place. And it seems early on like it's just a kind of mysterious ghost story with the sort of possessed skeleton hand walking around the house. The really cool, well at least I thought the really cool idea of of getting trapped in rooms of the house and it's sort of creating an illusion of different rooms that you're expecting to see, so you're not going around in a circle until that's starting to be explained. I thought that was all really, really cool. It felt just a really good, creepy sort of horror story vibe for sort of the first, well, most of this episode really, but particularly the first half of the episode when we didn't know anything about the Lone Cyberman to appear. Of course, the number one thing everybody's going to be talking about is the Cyberman appearance in this episode, which, I'm not going to lie, I think this was one of the best appearances and portrayals of a Cyberman in a long time that I can remember. It just felt like something a little bit different, but still completely a Cyberman. The idea that he is relentless and ruthless, I think, is what Christian described it as very early on before the series aired. And we really saw that borne out in this episode. It's essentially the last of the Cybermen, to an extent, sort of being trapped back in the past, and is then having to relentlessly try and find this person who's been possessed by this Cyberium that he's got to get, which is sort of the AI that holds all of the cyber network in, I think, essentially, to kind of rebuild a cyber army based off this Cyberium AI thing. I think that's what I got from it. It was all a little bit confusing, and I definitely need to watch it again, but I think that was the vibe of it. But it was just the way, well, the initial look of this Cyberman was so cool. I loved this sort of like, he's almost was more than half converted, but wasn't completely fully converted. We could still see the side of his face. You kind of almost believed there was a little bit of, well, there was a little bit of emotion in there. He was describing different emotions and it immediately kind of was throwing you off like, but this doesn't make sense. This isn't a Cyberman. He doesn't have emotions. But then you kind of, towards the end, when he sort of, well, we had this moment where we think that he decided not to kill a baby because he was being kind and compassionate or whatever. And he actually just turns into this ruthless killing machine saying, no, I just killed them because they're weak and I left them because they're weak and it doesn't matter. And I'm just going to kill everybody, basically, and just went into sort of a total kind of rage mode, I think. Sort of almost a negative, angry emotion rather than emotions that are kind of holding it back in being good or something. It was just emotions that were kind of egging it on to be more and more evil and destructive and ruthless, and I have to get this Cyberium back. And that was really, really cool to see, and a really cool vibe, I think, in this episode. It just works so well in this creepy house that it was chasing Mr. Shelley around essentially through a lot of this episode. Well, that we thought because he'd been possessed by the Cyberium, which introduces an interesting new aspect to Doctor. I don't think we kind of had the sort of cyber planner with the whole cyber interface all in one type thing, or the cyber race all in one in Nightmare and Silver, but I don't feel like we've had it that much of this whole sort of central AI type thing that they're calling Cyberium in this episode. And it presented some great moments for Jodie's Doctor, I think, in this episode. It felt for me like one of her best episodes, definitely the second half of this episode where we were presented with this massive moral dilemma of, do I let this person in front of me die to save the future, or do I try and save them but potentially lose the future, essentially, or destroy the future with the Cybermen being rebuilt? And there's just this great moment where they're all like, well, no, you've got to let him die to stop the cyber race in the future. And then she's like, well, she sort of is having this moment of kind of anger towards her. I think anger about the fact that she has to make these decisions, that she is a Time Lord, she feels the moral responsibility to make those impossible choices of, do I condemn one person now or do I condemn millions in the future, and having to make that impossible dilemma that maybe seems easy on the surface if you're not directly actioning that thing happening, but as soon as you are that person, and that's what the Doctor always has to be, that's where she's just, I love that moment where she just explains to Yaz, Ryan and Graham that the pain and the struggle that it is that she has to be the one to make that decision, and that could you do it? If it was you, would you make that decision? I loved the way she portrayed that, and you could just see the real anger and rage she's got from all the previous sort of challenges in this way that we've seen before. Probably the one thing that this episode does do, which is not brilliant, is that it kind of makes, it doesn't make Jack's appearance pointless, but it does, she basically just completely disregards the warning that he gave in the episode. Like, not really at any point does she seriously consider the fact that she shouldn't give it what it wants. She does for a moment, but then the moment that we get the Lone Cyberman saying that that the Cybermen are inevitable, I think was the word they used, or certainly they just will always turn up no matter what. I think the Doctor almost realised, well, why do I risk planet Earth now if it's just inevitable that the Cybermen are going to appear in the future no matter what, because that's what the Cybermen are. I think that's why they are such brilliant and cool and amazing idea for a villain and creation, because they are essentially just a natural evolution of humanity wherever it is. They will always be Cybermen because people will always want to upgrade themselves, improve themselves, make themselves immortal, undefeated, invincible, and eventually that becomes a Cyberman almost every single time. And I just love that idea, and we saw that again there, and just the Doctor being reminded of that, I think, which obviously swayed her decision, but then meant that the whole warning to the Lone Cyberman was kind of forgotten. But maybe it would have been different if Jack had actually met the Doctor in Fugitive of the Jejune. I don't know, maybe it would have made a difference. I do feel like I spent the first half of this episode to an extent waiting for the Cyberman to appear because it had been so strongly hinted. Like, basically BBC America posted a tweet with the gif of Jack saying beware the Lone Cyberman. Like, come on guys, don't give it away that explicitly. Like, I kind of guessed it already, it was kind of obvious, but you gave it away a little bit too easily there, I felt. So that was a little bit of a shame. But I still thought the moment when the Cyberman was actually revealed, when we see this flashing ghost that's coming in, coming out, can't quite sort of arrive in the house, was so effectively done. And the way he just storms up to them and then they obviously try and shut him out was just, I thought, a really cool and exciting way to introduce this Cyberman. The mysterious Lone Cyberman that we've been waiting for is here. But probably to appreciate the rest of this story, I do need to rewatch it again because kind of, not that I don't care about the other plot line with Mary Shelley and Lord Byron and Dr. Polidori and all that. They just didn't, I just wasn't, once the Cyberman's here, like, who cares about them anymore? Like, I just wanted to see the Cyberman. I kind of felt that at the end of the episode as well, when we were getting the kind of wrap-up scenes with the goodbye to Mary Shelley and all this, that, and the other. I was kind of like, actually, I just want us to go a little bit further with the Cyberman storyline and the whole war in the future thing in this episode. Let's not leave it so kind of not going anywhere with it. I would have liked them to go a little bit further, maybe. But of course, one other very mysterious thing that we got in this episode that didn't get any explanation in the end was this supposed thing of Graham seeing ghosts, which seemingly was completely disconnected to the actual control of the house that was being done by Mr. Shelley with his control, the Cyberium control that he was able to wield basically to kind of create all these things happening in the house to try and keep the Cyberman away. I think that was basically the idea of it. Clarify if I'm wrong, please do comment below. But yes, we didn't get any explanation, and the Doctor gave a rather ominous, just sort of saying, oh, maybe there's ghosts, and moved on. Explanation as to why Graham is seeing, well, apparently people who have died. For me, I think for a lot of people, the natural inclination of this is going to be is Graham going to die type storyline here. Is that foreshadowing for Graham's death? I struggle to see what else it could be. Like, why would he be seeing ghosts unless there's something seriously wrong with him, messed up with him, or it already is just some heavy foreshadowing for something that's going to happen. I don't know. But it just gave quite a strong hint, particularly with the sort of the kind of hints of the finale where everything changes and big things are going to happen, the finale's going to hurt, stuff. There's lots of just little hints and phrases and stuff from marketing and PR stuff that the Doctor have done that hint that we're going to get potentially companion departures in the Series 12 finale. Exactly who or what, I don't know, but I do feel like this is, for me initially, I thought Graham was almost the most likely to come on, to stay on, because Tosin Coles, well, he's been cast in other shows, so it seems likely he's going to leave. Mandip Gill kind of hinted that she was having interviews for other jobs or going for other jobs and stuff at the moment, which implied again she might not be in it anymore, which kind of left the idea that Graham was going to stay. But then now are we less sure that Graham's going to stay as well? Is he going to die and the other two are going to leave, and then we can have a whole new companion refresh for Series 13? I don't know, but there's a lot of possibilities there, I think. Because as an episode, this is one that kind of goes from mysterious ghost story to scary Cyberman who you genuinely buy into as a real threat, ruthless, relentless threat, I think, in this story, which is brilliant, and I love to see it from a Cyberman. It's really, really good, and obviously sets up some major things for the finale. I love that line from the Doctor where she's like, step one was to get rid of the Cyberman now, and step two is to resolve all the mess that I've caused by getting rid of the Cyberman now and giving it what it wants, and all that complete disaster for the future. And it clearly is going to set up a really exciting two-part finale. I think the Ascension of the Cybermen is just a cool episode title, certainly implies implies the kind of rise of the Cybermen again. But then it's also talking about the end of the cyber war is what we're sort of moving to in this next episode. So I'm very intrigued to see where that takes us. And as I say, I think there's going to be consequences for somebody, particularly with the kind of constant foreshadowing from the Doctor and the mentions of, I don't want you to come because bad things always happen when Cyberman and human meet, basically. Obviously implying incidents from the past, shall we say, with the Doctor and her friends, or his friends and Cybermen. But also sort of just reminding us of the dangers of the Cybermen and kind of implying and hinting at maybe some bad things happening to companions, shall we say. So yes, overall, I thought this was genuinely a really strong episode. All the way through, I was very, very intrigued of what was going to happen with this horror story setting in this mysterious house. Just the really cool idea of the rooms kind of duplicating themselves and getting stuck in a loop in different rooms and then having to figure out that this was all an illusion and then being able to break through that. That was a really cool idea initially. Bringing the Cyberman just turned it into a great episode, I think, and Jodie got some really, really good moments throughout this story as well. Yes, overall, a really, really good one. Possibly my favourite of the series. Certainly it's right up there and sets up some really exciting things for the next two episodes. I am super, super excited for what's to come in the finale of this series. I really think, given though I've been hyping it up every week as well, which I think is terrible marketing in terms of saying, well, this episode's happening, but it's only 2 weeks till the finale. Well, this episode's happening, but it's only 1 week till the finale. That's a terrible way to market your show. But it does imply that there's going to be lots of very exciting things happening in this two-part finale that we've got to look forward to coming next week. So yes, I hope you guys have enjoyed my, I'm going to call them initial thoughts, because I think I probably will do a full review of this episode as well, where I go a bit more in-depth on it, have another watch, and just kind of go a bit more detailed like I did last week with Can You Hear Me? Because I feel like it's an episode that, as good as it was, also warrants a rewatch to kind of just nail down some of the details of the episode as well, I think. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Do get theorising and let me know your thoughts on the episode down in the comments below. I would love to hear what you have to think about The Haunting of Villa Diodati. But apart from that, as always, if you are new here, hit that subscribe button. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, and I'll see you again very soon for another one. Goodbye.